The giant Apache woman mocked the cowboy's proposal, until she found herself expecting his child. The sun was high in the sky, sending warm golden light over the dusty town at the edge of the Apache lands. The air was dry, and a soft breeze carried the smell of horses, leather, and fresh earth from the surrounding plains. Among the scattered wooden houses and trading posts, townsfolk moved quietly, going about their daily routines, yet everyone seemed to notice her. Her name was Naya, though most simply called her the Giant Woman, because of her extraordinary height and strong commanding presence. Standing taller than most men in the town, she moved with a natural grace that made her appear almost like a force of nature. Her dark hair, long and straight, shone like the night, and her eyes were deep and thoughtful, reflecting both intelligence and a strength that few could challenge. Naya was not just physically strong. She was independent, proud, and confident in a way that made people respect her from the moment they met her. That morning, Naya worked near the edge of the town, repairing the wooden fences that bordered her small garden. Her hands moved quickly and skillfully, tying ropes and driving stakes into the ground with precision. Children walking by paused for a moment to watch, wide-eyed, while a few of the older men nodded in approval. Naya hardly noticed the attention. She was focused on her task, humming a quiet tune as the sun warmed her shoulders. From the distance, a young cowboy named Sam rode slowly into town. Sam was not like the usual traders or wandering cowhands. He had a kind face, calm eyes, and a steady, patient manner that set him apart. He had heard whispers of the giant Apache woman while traveling through nearby settlements, and curiosity had drawn him here. As Sam dismounted near the trading post, he glanced toward the edge of town and saw Naya. His first thought was one of awe. Her size, her strength, and her confidence caught him off guard. He had seen many people in his travels, but few carried themselves with such quiet authority. He adjusted his hat nervously, unsure how to approach her, yet determined to try. Naya noticed him almost immediately. She could sense someone watching her from a distance. When she turned, she saw the young cowboy standing awkwardly, holding the reins of his horse and shifting from foot to foot. A small smile played at the corners of her lips. She had always found it amusing when men tried to impress her. Few succeeded and most failed, in ways that were funny more than anything else. Sam walked toward her cautiously, trying to appear confident. "Hello," he said politely, tipping his hat. "I'm Sam. I've heard about you." "I wanted to see for myself." Naya laughed, a sound that was rich and full, echoing lightly across the open space. "See for yourself, cowboy?" she asked, raising one eyebrow. "And what exactly were you expecting to find?" Sam hesitated. He had rehearsed a few words in his mind, but now, standing before her, they seemed insufficient. I wanted to meet you." Well, people talk about you, about your strength and everything." Naya shook her head, laughing again, this time with a hint of teasing. "People talk too much," she said.
"And they exaggerate. You think I'm some kind of giant, fearless woman, don't you?" Maybe," Sam admitted, scratching the back of his neck.
"But I want to know the truth, not the stories." For a moment, Naya studied him carefully. Most men who spoke like that were either foolish, arrogant, or just trying to flatter her. Sam, however, had a quiet sincerity she had rarely seen. She decided to have a little fun. "Well," she said, stepping closer, "here's the truth. I don't have any magical strength. I'm just big, and I work hard. That's all." "You think you can handle someone like me?" Sam looked at her, surprised by the directness of her words. I think I can try," he replied earnestly. Naya laughed again, this time with genuine amusement. "Try? Cowboy, that's the funniest thing I've heard all week." She shook her head, then walked back to her fence, clearly returning to her work. Sam, however, was not ready to give up. Over the next few days, Sam found reasons to visit the edge of town more often. Sometimes it was to buy supplies, sometimes to check on his horses, and sometimes just to catch a glimpse of Naya as she worked. Each time she greeted him with a teasing smile, and he responded with quiet patience, never showing frustration at her jokes or mockery. One morning, as Naya struggled with a particularly stubborn fence post, Sam approached and offered to help. "Let me give you a hand," he said gently. Naya looked at him suspiciously. "You really think you can handle it?" she asked, her tone half challenging, half amused. "I'll try," Sam said simply, stepping closer. Together, they worked on the post. Sam's strength and steady hands made the task easier, and Naya, though still teasing him, couldn't hide the slight smile forming on her face. For the first time in many years, she felt a hint of companionship, not in a romantic sense, but in the satisfaction of sharing a challenge with someone who respected her skills. Days turned into weeks, and a routine began to form. Sam would appear at the edge of town helping with chores, listening to her stories and learning about her life. Naya continued to tease him, often mocking his efforts or joking about his awkwardness, but beneath her laughter, she began to appreciate his presence. He was reliable, respectful, and patient in a way that few men had ever been. The townsfolk noticed the growing connection. Others whispered that perhaps the cowboy would finally win the giant Apache woman's respect. Others were skeptical, saying she was too independent to be impressed by anyone. Naya, however, paid little attention to gossip. She measured people by their actions, not their words. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, Sam and Naya sat near the edge of her garden, watching the horizon. The air was calm, and the world seemed to pause around them. "You know," Sam said quietly, "I didn't come here to fight or compete. I just wanted to meet you, to see who you really are." Naya looked at him, surprised by the simplicity and honesty in his words. Most people were too impressed or intimidated by her size to see past it. Sam, however, had come without expectation, without pretense. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, one she had not felt in a long time. "You're different," she said slowly, almost to herself. "Most people don't see me like that." "I see you," Sam replied firmly. "The real you." For the first time, Naya didn't laugh or tease. She simply nodded, feeling a quiet respect for the young cowboy. Though she would never admit it aloud, she found herself looking forward to his visits, curious about his thoughts, and willing to share parts of herself she usually kept private. The town carried on around them, the sounds of horses, trading, and daily life blending into the background. Yet, in that moment, Naya felt a connection that went beyond mere words. She realized that this cowboy, who had once seemed awkward and foolish, was slowly carving a place in her world. A place she hadn't thought anyone could earn. And so, the days continued. Naya worked, Sam helped, and slowly a bond formed, a bond built on respect, patience, and the subtle beginnings of something deeper. The giant Apache woman, known for her independence and strength, found herself quietly intrigued by the cowboy who refused to be intimidated by her. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. The teasing, the laughter, and the careful trust they were building would soon face new challenges, challenges that would test not only their patience, but the very heart of what it meant to care for another person. But for now, under the warm sun and the wide open sky, Naya and Sam shared the simple moments of understanding, laughter, and the quiet thrill of discovering someone who truly saw them. The sun dipped lower, and the shadows stretched across the land. Naya stood, brushing dust from her hands, and Sam followed suit. Though their first meeting had been filled with teasing and mockery, it had planted the seeds of something far greater. A story was beginning, one of trust, respect, and the unpredictable path of the human heart. And as the wind rustled through the plains and the town settled into evening, both of them knew, deep down, that life was about to change in ways neither could yet imagine. The days passed slowly in the dusty town, but for Naya and Sam, time seemed to move differently. Sam had begun visiting more often, always with a purpose, never just wandering aimlessly. Sometimes he came with supplies he had traded, sometimes to help with chores, and sometimes simply to offer company. Naya, who was used to doing everything on her own, found herself noticing his presence more than she expected. She tried to resist it at first, teasing him when he offered help, mocking his awkward ways, and laughing at his polite attempts to impress her. Yet, beneath the laughter, she began to see a quiet strength in him, one that was different from brute force or loud words. One morning, Naya was struggling to repair a section of fence that had been damaged during a recent storm. The wood was heavy, and the ground was hard, making it nearly impossible to secure the posts properly. Sam appeared, carrying a small bundle of tools he had brought from town. "Morning, Naya," he said cheerfully, tipping his hat. "Need a hand with that?" Naya raised an eyebrow, a smile playing at her lips. "Do you really think you can handle it?" she asked, her tone teasing but with a hint of curiosity. Most men would have walked away, intimidated by the work or by her towering presence. But Sam simply nodded, setting the tools down and rolling up his sleeves. Together they worked on the fence. Naya handled the heavier posts, demonstrating her remarkable strength, while Sam carefully measured, tied ropes, and helped secure the wood. At first, Naya kept teasing him, making fun of his careful movements and deliberate pace. "Careful there, cowboy. Don't hurt yourself on a simple fence," she joked, laughing at his focused expression. Sam simply smiled. "Better careful than careless," he replied. "I'd rather take my time than break something you've worked hard on." By the time the sun reached its highest point, the fence was finally secure. Naya looked at their work and, for the first time, allowed herself a small nod of approval toward Sam. "Not bad, cowboy," she admitted quietly. "You actually helped," Sam grinned. "I told you, I'm not here just to talk. I'm here to help." Over the next several days, Sam continued to show his dedication. He would arrive early in the morning, helping with chores, gathering firewood, or assisting in her small garden. Naya, who was fiercely independent, found herself reluctantly appreciating his efforts. He was not trying to impress her with words or gifts. He was proving himself through actions, showing patience, respect, and care. One afternoon, while they were gathering water from a nearby stream, Naya lost her footing on a slippery rock. She stumbled, almost falling into the fast-moving water. Sam reacted instantly, catching her arm and steadying her before she could fall. "Careful, Naya," he said firmly. "You could have been hurt." Naya looked at him, surprised by the genuine concern in his voice. Most people she had encountered would have simply laughed or ignored the danger. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a recognition that Sam's presence was different. She pulled her arm back, partly out of habit, but a small smile lingered on her face. "Thanks," she said softly. That evening, as they returned to the town, Naya noticed how the townsfolk observed them. Some looked with curiosity, others with admiration. She had always been seen as unapproachable, a figure of strength and independence. Yet Sam treated her as an equal, someone worthy of respect, not just fascination. It made her think differently about him, though. She would never admit it out loud. Over time, their interactions became more comfortable and natural. They would share small stories about their lives, the things they had experienced, and the lessons they had learned. Sam listened attentively to Naya's stories about her family, the Apache traditions, and the challenges she faced growing up. He asked thoughtful questions, never interrupting, never judging, simply showing interest in her world. Naya, who had always been cautious with outsiders, began to feel a quiet trust growing. She still teased him, mocking his polite manners or his careful handling of tasks, but now there was a gentleness to her laughter. She noticed herself looking forward to his visits and feeling a little disappointment when he did not appear. One afternoon, as they repaired a damaged roof on one of the small outbuildings, a sudden windstorm blew in, scattering dust and debris across the yard. Naya struggled to keep the wooden boards in place as the wind threatened to tear them from her hands. Sam stepped in, holding the boards steady while she secured them. Their hands brushed repeatedly, and each time Naya felt a small thrill of something she had never expected. When the storm passed, they both stood back, surveying their work. Naya's expression softened. "I didn't think you would last," she said quietly, almost to herself. "You've proven me wrong." Sam smiled. "I don't mind being proven wrong," he replied, "especially if it means working alongside you." The days turned into weeks, and with each passing day, their bond deepened. Naya began to share small parts of her life that she had kept private, telling Sam about the values she cherished, the stories her mother had passed down, and the hopes she held for the future. Sam listened with patience and genuine interest, offering advice only when asked and always respecting her choices. One evening, while they sat near the campfire, Sam spoke quietly. "Naya, I know you value your independence, and I don't want to take that from you. I want to be someone you can trust, someone you can rely on when you need help." Naya looked into the fire, her thoughts swirling. She had always relied on herself, never needing anyone else to step in. Yet with Sam, she felt a strange sense of comfort. "It's not easy to trust someone," she admitted softly, "especially someone from the town." "I understand," Sam said calmly. "I'm not asking for blind trust. Just give me a chance to show you that I'm different." Naya nodded slowly. She did not know why, but she felt that Sam's words were true. His actions had already spoken louder than any promises. She allowed herself a small smile, one that was genuine and unguarded. As the days passed, Sam continued to prove himself in small but meaningful ways. He would carry heavy loads without complaint, help Naya's neighbors when asked, and always return to her side without expectation of reward. Naya began to realize that his presence in her life was no longer just convenient. It had become necessary in a way she had not anticipated. One morning while they worked together in the garden, Sam paused to look at her. "You know, Naya, I admire your strength," he said quietly. "Not just your height or your skills, but the way you carry yourself. You're someone people can rely on, someone who commands respect without demanding it." Naya looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. Few people ever recognized her for more than her size or appearance. "Thank you," she said softly. "It means more than you know." In that moment, a quiet understanding passed between them. Naya realized that Sam was not just a visitor in her world. He was becoming a part of it. And though she would never admit it, she began to feel a small warmth in her heart whenever he was near, a feeling that made her cheeks heat and her laughter sound softer. By the end of the week, the townsfolk had begun to notice the change in Naya. She still maintained her independence, still laughed and teased Sam, but there was a subtle shift. She would glance at him when he was not looking, and her smile lingered longer when he helped. People whispered quietly, speculating on the growing bond between the two. Yet Naya ignored the gossip, focusing instead on the quiet joy she found in Sam's company. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Naya and Sam sat together near the edge of town. The wind carried the scent of wildflowers and earth, and the world seemed peaceful. "You've changed my view of people from the town," Naya admitted quietly, her voice almost lost in the wind. "I thought everyone would be foolish or disrespectful, but you're different." Sam smiled, reaching out to gently touch her hand. "I'm glad you think so." "I don't want to change who you are. I want to be someone you can count on." Naya looked at his hand, then into his eyes. For the first time, she felt a sense of partnership, a recognition that two people could respect each other, work together, and share life's burdens without losing themselves. It was a new feeling, one she had never experienced before, and it left her quietly hopeful. As the stars began to appear in the evening sky, Naya and Sam sat in companionable silence, each thinking of the days that had passed and the bond that had begun to form. The teasing, the laughter, and the shared work had laid the foundation for trust and respect. Naya had started to see Sam not just as a visitor from the town, but as someone who could walk beside her through life's challenges. And though neither of them knew what the future would bring, in that quiet moment, under the wide-open sky, a connection had taken root, one that was strong, genuine, and filled with quiet promise. The following weeks felt different to Naya. The mornings were brighter, the days busier, but there was a quiet joy she could not ignore. Sam had become a part of her daily routine, and though she still teased him endlessly, she found herself looking forward to his visits more than she cared to admit. There was a comfort in knowing that someone understood her life, respected her independence, and never tried to change who she was. One morning, Naya was tending to her garden, carefully planting seeds for the coming season. The soil was rich and dark, and she worked quickly, her hands skilled from years of experience. Sam appeared at the edge of the garden carrying a small basket filled with tools and fresh water. "Morning, Naya," he said cheerfully, setting the basket down. "I brought water for your plants. Thought they could use it today." Naya glanced up, pretending not to notice the small gesture. "I didn't ask for your help," she said teasingly. "You think I need a cowboy babysitting my garden?" Sam chuckled. "Maybe not, but I like helping. Besides, I like seeing the garden flourish, just like its gardener." Naya paused for a moment, caught off guard by the unexpected compliment. She looked at him carefully, then quickly returned to her work. "Flattery won't get you far, cowboy," she said with a small smile, hiding the warmth she felt in her chest. They worked side by side, planting seeds and watering the garden. At first, the silence was comfortable, filled with the soft sounds of birds, the wind through the trees, and the occasional clatter of tools. Gradually, their conversation began to flow. First about practical things, how to space the seeds, how to care for the plants, but then about life, dreams, and memories. Naya found herself sharing small stories from her childhood, things she had rarely told anyone. She spoke about her family, her mother's lessons on strength and independence, and the values she held close. Sam listened intently, asking questions only when necessary, showing genuine interest. It was different from any conversation she had ever had. She felt seen and heard in a way that left her quietly amazed. "You've grown up strong," Sam said thoughtfully, after she told a story about helping her father repair fences as a child. "Not just in your body, but in your heart and mind, too."
I admire that.
Naya looked at him, momentarily unsure of how to respond. Most people would have been intimidated or jealous, but Sam's words were free of judgment or condescension. "Thank you," she said softly. I try to do what's right, I suppose."
Over the next few days, their bond continued to deepen.
Sam helped Naya with daily chores, carrying heavy loads of firewood, repairing fences, and tending to animals. Each time Naya mocked him, laughed at his careful movements, and called him clumsy, but she also noticed his patience and consistency. He never complained, never demanded praise, and never tried to show off. One afternoon, while they were caring for the horses, a sudden mishap occurred. A young colt had wandered into a thorn bush and become stuck. Naya approached quickly, but the thorns scratched her arms and made it difficult to free the animal. Sam jumped in beside her, carefully pulling the branches aside while Naya gently guided the colt. They worked together silently, their hands brushing repeatedly as they freed the frightened animal. When the colt was finally safe, Naya looked at Sam, her chest rising with a small laugh of relief. You didn't have to help," she said softly, though her eyes betrayed her gratitude.
"I know," Sam replied calmly.
"But I wanted to. You didn't need to do this alone." For the first time, Naya felt something unfamiliar. A quiet warmth spreading through her chest, a recognition that Sam's presence was not just helpful, but comforting. She looked at him and realized that she had started caring about his opinion, his safety, and his company more than she wanted to admit. That evening, as they walked back toward the town, the sun setting in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Naya noticed the silence between them was not uncomfortable. Instead, it felt peaceful, as if the world had slowed down to allow them to simply be together. "You've been visiting for weeks now," Naya said quietly, breaking the silence. "Why do you keep coming back?" Sam glanced at her, a small smile on his face. "Because I like being here. I like working with you, learning from you, and I like seeing you smile." Naya felt her cheeks warm and looked away, pretending to examine the ground. She had grown so used to her independence, so used to relying only on herself, that admitting any sort of attachment felt strange. And yet she could not deny the truth. She enjoyed his company more than she had expected. Days turned into weeks, and the small gestures of trust and care began to mean more. Sam would arrive with fresh water or food, offer to repair a broken tool, or simply sit quietly with her while she worked. Naya, who had always kept people at a distance, found herself welcoming his presence. She laughed more easily around him, shared small details about her life, and even sought his advice on matters she would have previously handled alone. One afternoon, while they rested by a quiet stream, Sam spoke quietly. "Naya, I know you value your independence, and I respect that. I don't want to change who you are. I want to be someone you can trust, someone you can count on." Naya looked at him, the water reflecting the sunlight in her eyes. "It's not easy to trust anyone," she admitted softly. "I've always relied on myself. Letting someone in, it's not something I do lightly."
I understand, Sam said calmly. I'm not asking you to give me your trust blindly.
"I just hope you'll let me show you that I can be counted on." For a long moment, Naya remained silent, her thoughts swirling. She realized that Sam's presence had already become important to her. She found herself thinking about him during the day, noticing the quiet way he observed the world, the care he took in his work, and the patience he showed toward her and her life. She had begun to rely on his help, though she would never admit it, and she had started to feel a small thrill whenever he appeared at her doorstep. Over time, their companionship became natural. They worked together without needing to speak much, their movements coordinated as if they had been doing these tasks for years. Naya began to notice small details about Sam, the way his eyes lit up when he found something interesting, the gentle way he handled animals, the quiet respect he showed toward her culture and traditions. One evening, as they sat around a small fire, Sam reached into his bag and pulled out a small bundle of herbs he had collected from the hills.
I thought you might like these, he said, offering them to her.
Naya took the herbs, surprised by the thoughtful gesture. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly, touched by the care he had shown.
I know, Sam replied.
I just wanted to. It's nothing big, but I thought you might enjoy it.
Naya smiled, something genuine and unguarded, the kind of smile she rarely showed to anyone. She realized that Sam's kindness was not just in his words or actions. It was in his consistency, his patience, and the respect he showed without asking for anything in return. As the weeks went on, Naya began to notice a subtle change in herself. She found herself thinking about Sam more often, wondering what he was doing when he wasn't around, and feeling a quiet longing for his presence. She tried to ignore these feelings, teasing him as usual, but there were moments when she caught herself watching him with a softer gaze or feeling a small warmth in her chest when he spoke to her. One afternoon, while repairing a fence together, their hands brushed and Naya felt a jolt of something unfamiliar. She looked away quickly, pretending to focus on her work, but the feeling lingered. It was confusing, exciting, and a little frightening, all at once. As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the land in shades of gold and orange, Naya and Sam stood back to admire the work they had done together. The fence was sturdy, the garden well tended, and the animals safe. For the first time, Naya realized that she had begun to care deeply for someone outside her family, someone who had earned her trust and respect through his actions, patience, and sincerity. Walking back to the town, side by side, Naya felt a quiet sense of peace. She was not sure what the future held, but she knew one thing: Sam had become an important part of her life. She did not fully understand her feelings yet, but she could not deny the connection that had grown between them, one built on respect, trust, and the subtle beginnings of something deeper. That evening, as the stars appeared one by one in the vast sky above, Naya lay in her small home, thinking about the days that had passed. She thought about Sam, his quiet strength, his patience, and the small ways he had shown he cared. She realized that she was no longer just amused by his presence. She felt a growing warmth, a curiosity, and a quiet hope. Something new was stirring within her, and though she did not yet understand it fully, she sensed that her life was about to change in ways she had never imagined. Naya had always been cautious about letting anyone get too close to her. She valued her independence, her strength, and the freedom to live life on her own terms. Yet, over the weeks and months she had spent with Sam, she felt a quiet bond growing, one that was hard to ignore. Sam had shown her patience, respect, and care in ways that made her feel both safe and understood. She had laughed, worked, and shared her thoughts with him, something she rarely did with anyone outside her family. One morning after a cold night, Naya felt different. There was a strange heaviness in her chest, a fluttering feeling in her stomach, and a quiet uncertainty she could not place. She tried to dismiss it, assuming it was fatigue or something she had eaten. But as the day went on, the feeling did not go away. She noticed her body reacting differently, a subtle shift that left her both curious and anxious. When Sam arrived that afternoon, as he did almost every day, she was tending to the animals in the small corral. He noticed her unusual quietness. "Naya, are you all right?" he asked gently, concern in his voice. Naya looked at him, her expression carefully controlled.
I think so," she replied, though she did not fully believe her words. She brushed some hay from her hands and tried to focus on her work, but the fluttering feeling in her chest refused to go away. As the days passed, the sensation became more pronounced. Naya began to notice changes in her body, tiredness that came without reason, a subtle shift in appetite, and moments of sudden emotion. At first she tried to ignore it, focusing on her chores and the daily tasks that had always kept her grounded. Yet deep inside, a quiet worry began to grow. One evening after Sam had left for the day, Naya sat quietly near the fire in her home. The flickering flames cast shadows across the walls, and she found herself lost in thought. She considered the week she had spent with Sam, the laughter, the shared work, and the quiet moments of understanding. She realized that she felt deeply connected to him, perhaps more than she had expected or wanted. Her thoughts grew heavier. Could it be possible? The idea had crossed her mind, and she could no longer ignore it. Naya felt a mix of fear, excitement, and uncertainty swirling inside her. She had always been in control of her life, never needing anyone to depend on. But now she faced something that was beyond her control, something that would change her life forever. The next morning, Naya made her way to a trusted friend and healer from her community. The woman was gentle, wise, and known for helping others in delicate situations. After a quiet conversation and a careful examination, Naya received confirmation. She was expecting a child. At first, Naya felt a rush of emotions, shock, disbelief, and a quiet panic. She had never imagined this for herself. Not now, not with anyone. She thought of Sam and felt a wave of both fear and hope. He had shown her patience, kindness, and understanding. But could he handle something as serious and life-changing as this? Could she trust him to stand by her, even in a situation that would test them both? The days that followed were difficult. Naya tried to carry on with her routine, tending to the animals and her garden, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought about the future, about the child she carried, and about the relationship she had with Sam. She had grown to care for him deeply, but this revelation brought with it a new set of questions and fears. Finally, she decided she could no longer keep the news to herself. She waited until Sam arrived, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. When he stepped into her yard, she took a deep breath and called his name. "Am, we need to talk." He looked at her, concern immediately visible on his face. "What is it, Naya? Are you all right?" Naya stepped closer, her hands trembling slightly. I'm expecting a child," she said quietly, the words feeling both heavy and liberating as they left her lips. For a moment, Sam simply stared at her, shock and disbelief crossing his features. Then, slowly, he stepped closer and took her hands in his. You're pregnant?" he asked softly. "Yes," Naya replied, looking down at their joined hands. I didn't expect this."
"I wasn't sure. I didn't know what to do." Her voice quivered slightly, though she tried to keep it steady. Sam's expression softened. He looked into her eyes with a seriousness that took Naya by surprise. "Naya, we'll handle this together. I promise. You're not alone in this." Naya felt a mix of relief and fear. She had expected doubt, hesitation, or even anger, but instead, Sam's words carried calm and commitment. Still, she could not help but feel uncertain. Could a relationship that had only recently begun withstand such a life-changing moment? Could they both adapt to a future that was now so different from what either of them had imagined? Over the next few days, Naya and Sam began to talk more openly about the future. They discussed the practicalities, how they would care for the child, how their lives would change, and how they could support each other. Sam showed patience and understanding, never pressuring her, always listening, and offering help in ways that made Naya feel safe and respected. Even so, Naya struggled with conflicting emotions. She loved her independence and had always relied on herself. She feared losing that freedom, yet at the same time she felt a growing attachment to Sam and a natural desire to protect and nurture the life growing within her. It was a delicate balance, one that left her both anxious and hopeful. One afternoon, while they were working together in the garden, Naya paused, feeling a wave of fatigue and uncertainty. Sam noticed immediately. "You're tired," he said gently. "Sit down, I'll take over for a while." Naya hesitated, her pride making her want to continue, but she eventually nodded. Sam took the tools from her hands and began working quietly, giving her space to rest. She watched him, feeling a warmth she could not deny. In that moment, she realized that she trusted him, not just to help with work, but to be by her side in a way that mattered deeply. As the weeks continued, Naya began to accept the reality of her situation. She took time to care for herself, learned more about the changes happening in her body, and considered the future with a cautious optimism. Sam continued to be a steady presence, helping with chores, offering quiet reassurance, and making her laugh with his gentle teasing. One evening, as they sat together by the fire, Naya spoke quietly. "Sam, I was afraid," she admitted. "I didn't know if I could trust anyone. Not like this. But I think I can trust you." Sam reached out, holding her hands gently. "You can, Naya. I'm here. We'll face this together, no matter what comes. I promise you that." Naya felt a wave of relief and warmth. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to imagine a future that included Sam, herself, and the child growing inside her. She realized that life was changing in ways she could not control, but perhaps that change was not something to fear. Perhaps it was something to embrace. Over the next few days, their bond grew even stronger. They worked together with purpose, shared quiet moments of laughter and conversation, and began to plan for the future in small, practical ways. Naya found herself opening up more than she ever had, sharing her hopes, fears, and dreams with Sam. And in return, Sam shared his own thoughts, showing a vulnerability and honesty that deepened her trust and admiration. By the time the season began to shift, Naya had accepted her situation. She was pregnant, yes, but she was not alone. Sam was there, steady, patient, and caring. She had learned that trust, respect, and shared effort could create a bond stronger than fear or doubt.
And as she looked toward the horizon, watching the sun dip below the plains, she felt a quiet hope, a belief that life could bring challenges, but with the right person by your side, those challenges could be met with courage, love, and determination.
Naya realized that the future was uncertain, yes, but it was also full of possibility. She had found someone who respected her, cared for her, and was willing to face the unknown with her. And in that knowledge, she felt a sense of peace she had never known, a quiet certainty that, together, they could handle whatever life had in store. The weeks passed, and life in the small town continued with its quiet rhythm. Naya had begun to accept the reality of her pregnancy, and Sam remained a constant presence, helping her with chores, caring for the animals, and simply being by her side. There was a new sense of purpose in their days, a gentle routine that neither had experienced before, yet it felt natural and comforting. Naya had grown stronger in her confidence, not just in herself but in their partnership. She still teased Sam, laughed at his careful ways, and challenged him whenever she could. But she had begun to rely on him in ways she had never allowed anyone before. He was patient, always attentive, and never tried to take control. Instead, he encouraged her independence while quietly offering support, and this balance made their bond grow stronger every day. One morning, Sam appeared at the edge of her garden with a small bundle of fresh vegetables.
"Good morning, Naya," he called cheerfully. "I thought you might like these for the soup later." Naya smiled,
her heart warming at the sight of him. "You always seem to know what I need even before I do," she said, shaking her head in amusement. "I suppose I should be grateful for that." "You should," Sam replied with a grin. "Besides, it gives me a reason to see you every day." They worked together in the garden, planting new seeds, tending the vegetables, and laughing quietly at small mishaps. When a small basket tipped over, spilling soil across Naya's feet, Sam didn't scold her or complain. He simply knelt, helping her gather the soil, and made a joke about how even the earth wanted to play along. Naya laughed, feeling lighter and freer than she had in weeks. As the months went on, the town began to notice a change in the giant Apache woman. Naya had always been strong and independent, but now there was a quiet radiance about her, a softness that had not been there before. People whispered among themselves, wondering how the proud, fearless woman had allowed a cowboy from town to become part of her life. Naya ignored their gossip, focusing instead on the small joys of each day: the garden flourishing, the animals safe, and the gentle presence of Sam beside her. One afternoon, as they repaired a broken section of fence, Naya paused to rest. She leaned against the wooden post, feeling the gentle flutter of life within her, a reminder of the child she carried. Sam noticed immediately and knelt beside her. "Do you need to sit down?" he said gently. "Let me finish this part." Naya shook her head, trying to protest, but Sam placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "I insist," he said. "You're carrying our child. You don't need to do everything alone." For the first time, Naya felt fully at ease with someone else taking the lead, even for a moment. She nodded and let him continue, watching him work with quiet admiration. There was something in the way he handled the tools, the animals, and even the chores that spoke of patience, care, and reliability, qualities she valued more than she could have imagined. As the days turned into weeks, Naya began to prepare for the new life that was soon to arrive. She gathered supplies, learned about the herbs and foods that would help her during pregnancy, and made plans for the future. Sam was always there, offering assistance, carrying heavy loads, and helping with tasks she once did alone. But he also offered something more important: a sense of calm, a feeling that they were in this together. One evening, after a long day of work, Naya and Sam sat together by the fire, watching the stars appear in the sky. The air was cool, carrying the scent of the plains and the quiet sounds of the town settling down for the night. "You know," Naya said softly, breaking the silence, "I never thought I could feel this peaceful. I've always been alone, relying only on myself. But now, I feel like I have someone to share life with." Sam looked at her, a gentle smile on his face. "That's because you do, Naya. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. We'll face everything together, the hard times and the joyful moments." Naya leaned back, letting the words sink in. She thought about the months that had passed, the laughter, the work, the trust they had built, and she realized that she had grown to care for Sam more than she could have imagined. He had become more than a companion. He was a partner, someone who respected her independence while quietly offering support, someone who made her life richer simply by being part of it. The news of Naya's pregnancy eventually reached her family and the Apache community. At first there was concern and surprise. They had always known Naya as strong, independent, and self-reliant. Yet, when they saw Sam's consistent presence, his respect for her culture, and his unwavering commitment, their apprehension began to fade. Slowly they offered their support, recognizing that the couple's relationship was built on trust, care, and mutual respect. Naya felt a mixture of relief and gratitude. She had feared judgment or rejection, but instead she found understanding and acceptance. It reinforced the bond she shared with Sam, showing her that life could change in unexpected ways, and that change could bring joy and support rather than fear and uncertainty. One afternoon, while preparing the garden for the coming season, Naya noticed Sam watching her with a soft expression. "You've grown stronger since all this began," he said quietly. "Not just in body, but in heart and mind." "You're amazing, Naya." Naya felt a warmth in her chest and smiled.
I didn't do this alone, she said.
You've helped me more than you know. Sam shook his head, brushing a strand of hair from her face. We've done this together, and soon we'll have something even more special waiting for us. As the months passed, Naya and Sam prepared for the arrival of their child. They repaired the home, gathered supplies, and spent quiet moments discussing the future. Naya continued to work in the garden and care for the animals, but Sam was always there to assist when needed, never overbearing, always patient. One morning as they walked along the edge of the town, Naya felt a flutter of anticipation. "Do you think we're ready?" she asked softly. Sam smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "We'll never be completely ready," he said, "but we'll face it together. We'll learn as we go, just like we've done with everything else." Naya nodded, feeling a sense of calm and confidence she had not known before. The child she carried represented not just a new life, but a new chapter for both of them. She had found love, trust, and partnership in a way she had never expected, and she felt ready to embrace the future. The day finally came when Naya gave birth to a healthy baby, a boy with dark eyes and strong features, a reflection of both his mother and father. Sam was by her side throughout, holding her hand, offering encouragement, and marveling at the small life they had created together. When she held the child in her arms for the first time, Naya felt a flood of emotion. There was love, pride, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility, but also a quiet joy. She looked at Sam, who was smiling with tears in his eyes, and realized that together they could face anything. Over the next few weeks, Naya and Sam adjusted to their new roles as parents. They took turns caring for the baby, tending to the home and animals, and supporting each other through the challenges and joys of raising a child. The bond they had built over months of trust and shared work now extended to their family, creating a sense of stability, love, and partnership that neither had expected. The town and the Apache community gradually accepted their family, recognizing the respect, care, and dedication both Naya and Sam had shown. Naya, once seen as unapproachable and fiercely independent, now embodied a balance of strength, wisdom, and gentle love. Sam, who had come into her life as a curious cowboy, had proven himself not just capable but steadfast, patient, and deeply caring. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, the baby sleeping peacefully in Naya's arms, she looked at Sam and smiled. "We did it," she said softly. Sam took her hand in his eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. "Yes, we did. And this is just the beginning." Naya felt a quiet certainty settle over her. Life would continue to bring challenges, but she knew now that she did not have to face them alone. She had found love, partnership, and family, and the future, though uncertain, was bright with possibility. As the stars appeared in the sky and the wind rustled softly through the plains, Naya held her child close, feeling the warmth of family and the strength of love. She had begun the journey as a fiercely independent woman, and now she had discovered the joy of trust, companionship, and hope. Together they would face whatever came next, stronger and more united than ever.